That's Ashley and that's Suti, and today we'll be talking to you about death, which is what we look like a funeral party. So it's a little bit early to talk about death on a Tuesday morning, so we'll kick off our presentation with a little bit of humor, courtesy of a character that we should all be familiar with. Sorry, there's no sound. I don't know how to connect. It's okay.
Maybe just turn up the volume. There's a dial on the
Oops. You guys turn off the Ironic that we're talking about death in our presentation time. So, how did you feel about that? As you were watching Mr. Bean's antics and watching the widow's reactions to it, did you feel uncomfortable? And why did you feel this way? So I'd like you to keep your answers to these questions at the back of your mind as we go through the rest of our presentation. Part of the discomfort that you felt would have come from how outrageously inappropriate his behavior was. But a big part of that discomfort would have also come from the idea of death itself. And that's perfectly natural, because for all of us, deep down, we're bound to be afraid of death. Dark comedy is a huge genre, and a lot of people appreciate it, and it's not really that controversial. But why is it important that we laugh at death? And more crucially, why is it important that we talk about something which makes us so uncomfortable in the first place? Before I hand my time over to Suti and Ashley, I'd like you all to close your eyes and think for a moment, bravely confront the idea of your own death, and perhaps more frightening, the death of a loved one. So close your eyes and think about what it means to die well, what it means to die peacefully, and what needs to be done to achieve that, and to welcome the end without fear. As Suti takes over, you may open your eyes.
Okay, so coming back to reality, we'll be talking about more practical issues such as financial and legal matters. So many people don't really consider such issues until after the passing of a loved one. So, but then they realize that they don't actually know what the loved ones want, and there's actually a lot of paperwork to do. So all this creates a lot of stress for the family members, but this stress could be easily alleviated if some form of pre-planning was done with the family members. So I'll be talking about one important aspect of planning for the inevitable, the will. So introducing the issue of the will, I'd like to bring attention to this high-profile dispute that occurred earlier this year, the 38 Oxley Road. So actually this picture is a screen cap of a video someone made of the incident. Has anyone of you seen this video before? No, but actually you should check it out because it's really quite funny. So like this incident, a lot of reports about how rich and famous families get embroiled in court battles over will disputes, often appear in the newspaper, leading many people to think that, oh, if I have a will, I must be rich. And also, some people feel that since they are still young, and healthy, there isn't any reason for me to make a will like right now. So just a question, does any one of you know if your parents have a will? Oh, some of you actually do know. So actually, like the rest of you who don't know if their parents have a will, actually I didn't know whether my parents had one until very recently when I asked my mom. So she said no, they didn't have one. So I was curious as to the reason why, and she said that since everyone is healthy, they didn't feel that there's an immediate need to do so like right now. They know that it's important, but there's no compelling reason for them to do it immediately. So I guess like my family is like what many families are like. Their family members are healthy and fit, so they don't see a reason for them to draft up a will right now. And this is supported by statistics. So local estate planning firms estimate that no more than 15 to 20% of Singaporean families have drafted out a will. But actually, what does drafting out a will entail? So drafting up a will actually entails appointing, number one, beneficiaries of your estate. Number two, an executor to distribute your assets after death. And number three, legal guardian for your children before they become adults. So to demonstrate the benefits of having a will, I'd like to bring attention to what happens when you don't have a will. So for people who do not have a will, when they pass on, the Intestate Succession Act comes into force to distribute the assets among surviving family members. So, but distribution according to the law may not fit everyone's family situation. Let me give you an example. So, as you can see, that so in the fourth line, it says that the spouse and for a deceased who leaves behind a spouse and parent and children as well as parents. So the spouse gets half of the person's asset and the children gets the other half. But what about the parents? They don't get anything. So this is definitely an issue if the spouse and parents don't get along. So now you see the importance of having a will. I'll now pass the time to Ashley, who will be talking about palliative care.
Thank you, Suzy. Just a quick show of hands, right? How many of you all know what exactly is palliative care? It's not surprising to see so few hands up in the air. According to Lane Foundation's Death Attitude Survey, only half of Singaporeans are aware of only half of Singaporeans are aware of hospice palliative care, and only 1/3 of the respondents are able to define clearly what exactly is palliative care. This shows that there is a clear lack of awareness of palliative care as an option. To give you a brief insight, here is a short comic. As illustrated from the comic, the emphasis in palliative care is to understand the wishes of the patients, as most people are afraid of dying alone and also in pain or disability. And therefore, what we should do is to cater to their wishes and also to accompany them through their last moments in life. So essentially, palliative care, what it does is that it is a support system for both the patients and the family. It offers an approach that will improve the quality of life of patients and family through the treatment of pain and other problems, spiritual, psychosocial, and also the other problems that they face related to a life-threatening illness. So why should you choose palliative care? Based on a report in the New England Journal of Medicine, a group of lung cancer patients who received early palliative care not only enjoyed better, longer quality well-being, they also enjoyed better overall mental well-being. This in comparison to lung cancer patients who did not receive early palliative care. So what this means is that palliative care offers an optimistic approach, as the hospice care staff can help to facilitate open discussions. So palliative care is not provided only at the very end. It's of importance that we start conversations early so that we can have sufficient time to understand and discuss the patient's wants, his values and beliefs. Now I'll pass back the time to you.
So we know we've got to be prepared legally, financially, and medically. But before we can tackle all the details of those things, we need to prepare ourselves. And this begs the question, are we actually seriously talking about death? My answer to this is no, because if we were, then why would there still be a taboo? So I'd like to share something with you that I found. This article by BuzzFeed, which I found rather interesting because it had some pretty good information, or rather some pretty good suggestions for how to deal with death. Peppered in were things like binge eating, telling shocking jokes which makes everyone else uncomfortable, and changing up your diet. And these things I found really frivolous. I might be wrong because everyone is different and we all cope with things differently. But the point here is that we can't just deal with the problem only after the fact. It's sort of like painting over a crack in a wall. It looks fine, but the damage is still there. So one way to understand this is by understanding the kind of media we consume and the ways that they represent death. So on the one hand, movies, films, video games, books, they give us pictures of death which are heroic, which are glorified, and which are spectacular. And on the other hand, we have scenes like this in the Titanic, which is sentimental, emotional, and highly melodramatic. The point here is that all these are unrelatable, and it makes us form stereotypes about what death should be, as well as how we should behave. So at this juncture, the point of our presentation is plain and simple. We need to talk about death. We need to confront death head on. And a lot of our fears are valid, but it's more important that we realize that there is more dignity in being courageous, in being prepared, and in accepting that at the end of the day, we all die. So Ashley has a video that we hope we can show you if the time allows.
So
Let's start the comedy jam.
So this is a short clip of this comedy talk show that is performed by patients with terminal illness. So just sit back and enjoy.
Let's start the comedy jam. Let's welcome your first act of the night.
6 sisters. I am the fourth one. And after my 3 sisters expired, I become the eldest one now. So now I feel that I got a promotion. I'm promoted, and now my younger sisters are waiting to be promoted.
लोग ये चाहते हैं कि उनका प्रेसिडेंट मेरे जैसा हो, तो ज़्यादा दिन नहीं टिके।
Does anyone have any questions? If there are no questions, then here are our references, and that's all for our presentation. Thank you.